TTEC Bites, TTEC's web series on all things customer experience. My name's Liz Glagowski, and I'm the editor-in-chief of the Customer Strategist Journal. Now, when disaster strikes, every moment matters. That's why it's really important to be as prepared as possible before an event happens. That's why we wanted to share some news with you about TTEC's new contract with the Federal Emergency Management Association, better known as FEMA, and a contract that we have to work together and be prepared and be able to react at a moment's notice. So we just announced recently that we have this partnership, and we wanted to talk a little bit more about how it will impact Americans and why it's such a great piece of news. So with me to discuss it is Andy Martin of TTEC's Public Sector Practice. Thanks for joining us, Andy.
Liz, great to be with you. Thanks for inviting me today.
Of course, always pleasure to talk to you. So the hurricane season is upon us. We have news of droughts and forest fires and wildfires and other disasters that are unfortunately an everyday part of life these days, which makes the role of FEMA that much more important and the speed at which they can react that much more important. So we wanted to go a little deeper into this relationship we now have with them to just talk a little bit about how that's going to be a benefit. So can you talk a little bit about the project, how it came to be, and why it's important?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's, first of all, we've been working with FEMA for several years now. We actually were supporting them during Hurricane Harvey and provided contact center support, which is very important. We're really the front door to FEMA. After a disaster strikes. I don't think a lot of people know that FEMA really doesn't get funded for these emergency responses until after a declaration of emergency has been established at the state where the emergency happens, and then further, the president actually authorizes that declaration of emergency. And so what that's created is a real challenge between the partnership between FEMA and industry for being able to respond in a crisis situation, because they have to wait until that declaration happens. And then once that happens and they're funded, it is a very quick response. And it's not good for FEMA, it's not good for TTEC, and really not good for the citizens. So we've been working with them along with industry partners for several years now, just talking about things that could be done to improve the speed at which we're able to respond and preparedness. Really, you mentioned that in your pre-log here, that preparedness is important, and it's important here, and it's important for that partnership between FEMA and industry. That we're as prepared as we can be when a disaster does strike.
So can you talk a little bit about what we'll actually be doing? So if something happens, how is TTEC then prepared to help, and residents or local governments or anything like that? And what about TTEC really gives us the ability to help?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and I think just to describe it at a very high level, when a disaster strikes, people are really suffering. They have the opportunity to apply for aid and assistance, and that's where TTEC comes in. We man contact centers and provide contact center as a service capability, so the technology and infrastructure that's required to set that up and allow citizens to reach out for help that they deserve from FEMA.
That's great. And so this is a pretty exclusive contract. Only a few vendors have been selected, kind of ready to act at a moment's notice, right? So what about TTEC was stood out to FEMA to be able to be one of those exclusive vendors?
Well, I think it was kind of threefold. The first was obviously our prior experience in supporting them. I think there's a certain trust when you go through an emergency situation that is established, and clearly we demonstrated our ability to support FEMA and the citizens that were impacted at that point. So I think that was one thing. But all of the partners and vendors that have been selected are companies, organizations, firms that are able to respond very rapidly, and that requires special skill set that TTEC certainly has and has been able to demonstrate. So the ability to rapidly stand up technology and infrastructure to be able to create a contact center very quickly. This obviously requires, badged and cleared agents because they'll be handling sensitive information, and so our ability and experience there is certainly important, and I think that played a role in our being selected along with others for this BPA.
Great. So what are then some key takeaways? Somebody's watching this. What might they really want to make sure that what do you want to make sure that they know about this, and how it will maybe provide a little peace of mind, or just a little bit of knowing that it's ready, that FEMA is ready to act more quickly? What are some key takeaways?
Well, I think that first of all, I'd highlight in terms of a key takeaway that FEMA and industry are coming together to really solve a complex problem and support the citizens, and they take their role very seriously, and we take our role very seriously from an industry support standpoint. And so what's really great to see is the cooperation between government and industry to really come together and solve a problem when people are in need and be able to address that need. We are working even before a disaster strikes, and that's one of the benefits of this BPA, is that there's 4 strategic partners now that we know that when a disaster strikes, we need to be ready to go. We know what the parameters are, we know what FEMA's requirements are, and they understand how to work with us. So we'll continue to partner with FEMA, and I think citizens should take comfort in that. I also want to highlight, I think TTEC's commitment to the public sector market, and this is just one example of many of where we are making investments to make sure we have secure infrastructure to support these types of clients, and we're committed to this. We take our role and as an industry partner to government very seriously, and we're excited to be part of and supporting FEMA in this regard.
That's great, and I just added that link to ttecgov.com. That just gives a nice overview of a lot of the public sector work that we can provide, both FEMA and many other government organizations. So this is a good news that we are ready and standing by, but we do hope that we'll never have to use this to any real
That's right.
real extent. But to be prepared is certainly much better than to have to scramble at the last minute. So Andy, thanks so much for giving us a little bit of your time today to discuss some of the details of this. And again, if anyone's interested in finding out some more, we've got a press release on the website, and you can find out more at ttecgov.com. So thanks again, and this was the CX Bites.
Thanks.
And have a great day, everybody.
Bye.